Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Open to Work Beyond the Label, the podcast for talent in transition. Today, you are in for a very special treat. I have with me Dr. V. Boykin. Dr. V has so many different labels and titles, and I want to talk all about them today. But after a bumpy exit from Dr. V's last role, she was able to turn disruption into her superpower. Today, we are talking about what it really takes to reinvent yourself and lead unapologetically. Dr. V also shares lessons from her new book, Unapologetically Disruptive Hard Lessons, Simple Truths. Dr. V, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Dr. V, there are so many titles that you have on LinkedIn from author, thought leader, enablement professional, keynote speaker. Who is Dr. V behind the label?
I mean, I thought you were going to say stripper and felon. That can be there too. Who am I behind the label? I am somebody that really likes puzzles. I'm somebody that is authentically disruptive. I'm somebody that tells the truth as I experience it and interpret it. I'm somebody that shares most, not all, but most of my mistakes so that other people don't have to repeat them. And I'm just a person that likes to get into some comfortable clothes and do puzzles all night. I'm a very simple, nerdy, awkward person.
I love it. Well, I will tell you that sharing your story is one of the most powerful things that you can do. That is why I created this platform because there's so many of us going through so many different experiences, but actually there's a lot of similarities in the outcomes that we learn through these different experiences. So hearing your story helps so many people. And so thank you for sharing it with us. If you don't mind, can you walk us through the journey that brought you here today? And were there any defining moments along the way that really shaped the version of you that we're here with?
Yeah, I think there were several defining moments. I think that the person that I was prior to going to prison is was a lot harsher of a version of me. I think that one of the things that prison allowed me to do, although I don't tend to give bad circumstances, bad people, bad choices credit for good things, but and it did make me a much kinder person, a person that focuses much more on seeing the humanity in people. I know for a fact there's much more that makes us similar than different. You know, when you're handcuffed to somebody who has committed murder, it's really clear they're still a human being. When you're spending time with people that haven't had all of the opportunities and have made bad choices, and you're one of those people, you really see the connectedness. I owned my own business for a while. I was a dog behaviorist. I specialized in dog aggression and adjustment disorders. I did the grind sales at Groupon, 80, 100 dials a day and trying to convince somebody to take 25 cents on a dollar after being a business owner. But I had a great affinity for Groupon. You know, I've never been a great salesperson, but I've always been a good share person. And that's how I approach sales. And I think that informs a lot of how I look at things now. So when I work for a company, I'm still very connected to the time when I was writing the paycheck. And I know how much that means. When I offer solutions to a business, I'm very connected to the outcome because I was that business that needed to not be taken advantage of and told the truth. How do I get better? So those things really inform. I'm really enjoying this role. I think this is the first time, and I'm 51 for at least the next 30, 28 days. You know, this role I've said, hey, this is exactly who I am, which I always tell companies, but then they don't believe it. And this is a company that said, okay, well, let's play to your strengths. You know, if you are disruptive, if you do look at things and think how they could be better, if you're not afraid of pulling the mess out of the closet, looking at it and putting it back in a neat manner, let's let you do what you do best. And it's been a joy to actually be able to do that and sit fully within my own skin. So hats off to Lyft Enablement and Doug Davidoff for allowing that to happen.
It's so great to be able to be yourself 100% authentically. So often, many of us, most of us, are afraid to share the skeletons in our closet or to share how we feel. I mean, come on, it's a very complex environment we're all living in right
Mhm.
now.
Yes.
And so it is scary to sometimes say
Yes.
what you think or how you feel. Eh, so it's great to hear that you can go into an interview, into a conversation and say, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
You know, My felony, I came home in 2004. So we're at 20 years. And there's still jobs I can't get. See, I can pass the background check, but when I do what is right for me, which is say, by the way, I speak about this on my platform and you should know. And I want to tell you, I am a convicted felon. This happened 20 years ago. It was nonviolent. Here are the details around it. There's still jobs I don't get after I share that, which is wild because it's literally been 20 years. There's still apartments I can't rent. There's still cities that say you're allowed as an apartment complex to say we won't allow felons to live here. So I think we really need to look at how we think about people that have been through hardships, whether self-selected or not, and what the punishment is. Because a fun fact, and it's important to say this, my sentence was 3 years. But in the state of Virginia, I could still not vote. And I was never sentenced to having my voting rights stripped away. So while people are incarcerated in a state, they're counted in the census, but they're disenfranchised from the vote. And it's specifically in today's climate. I think it's important to point that out.
Absolutely. Well, I will say, Dr. V, I'm sure there's so many different experiences that you can share where you were able to navigate complexity when you've got a lot going on mentally, emotionally. Can you share with us? Because on this podcast, there's a lot of people who are highlighting who are in transition, who are trying to navigate
Right.
transition. And there's a lot of emotion behind that. You mentioned having a really bumpy exit from your last role. Can you share how you were able to navigate that and what it taught you through the process?
Yeah, it was. It was especially tough because I had just had eye surgery. So I was on an FMLA leave. And I don't know that I've talked about this publicly yet. So yeah, I was on an FMLA leave and I factually was 4 days before a major back surgery. And so when I was notified that I didn't have a job while I was on FMLA leave to come back to, I woke up on June 2nd with a walker and no job. And I don't know how many different ways you can, as a human, experience despair, but I hit on a lot of them. And it was really tough. And while I thought I had done a great deal of work of making sure my worth wasn't tied to my role, I mean, I have over 300 hours of yoga teacher certification, let alone like I'm supposed to be able to know how to meditate and breathe through the discomfort and, practice ahisma and non-attachment and all these great things. Okay. So when it hits the fan, you're attached. On your best day, you're still attached. And it was hard. I was maintaining, along with my husband, 2 households. I still had responsibilities to an elderly parent. I still had bills that needed to be paid. Like I have cats that like expensive food. I need water that is hot in my house. And it was really challenging. And you don't know where you're going to work next. And you don't know at this age with this skill set, with this education, who wants to hire you. And the overqualified thing is real. And where do I fit in is real. And then people do what they think is the most helpful thing in the world. And they say to you, well, what kind of role would you like? One that pays? Like, this is not exactly a time where you feel the most engendered and empowered to get creative with what you want to do with your life. You are like on your heels. And if you don't sign an exit package, you're leaving there with like your last check. And if you're on long-term disability because you're having surgeries and you can't physically walk, you're on an even more reduced check. So I'm not ideating and imagining my role. Like that's a real thing that happens. Fortunately, a former person from the company I used to work with that hadn't been there for a while, I reached out and I was like, anything in the hopper? And Ash just graciously was like, you know what? Not traditionally, but maybe. And we were able to start that conversation. And I was like, I never would have said that this is the company size and this is the company mission and this is the role that I wanted. It's not a role you see advertised often, but gosh, was it a fit. And it just worked great. And they were so patient with allowing me to recover and then start.
You said so many things that I want to dig into. One that I find a little interesting, and I'd like your thoughts on it. You were in a position where you were like, I need something.
Yes.
and you were willing to be creative. You were willing to hear different options and explore. What I see sometimes is individuals who are so locked in on what they want that they're actually not willing to look beyond what maybe they are used to or what
Mhm.
their title was. Like people get very attached to the title and the role, and then they feel like their experience needs to translate. So, what advice might you give the people who feel like I can't get creative? I just need to do exactly what I was just doing because that's where my value is.
It's a great question. I think the first thing is like realize what you were doing just got you. What you were just doing just got you unemployed. So was it that great? Was it that wonderful? Were you that useful? Were you that indispensable? Do you really want to set yourself up for the exact same experience? Is this a role that no longer has the most value in an organization? And it's interesting because it's very easy to say, if you keep doing what you were doing, you'll get the same results. And when we're dating somebody that's like total trash, we're like, I'm never dating that person again. But when we see a job that treats us like total trash, we're like, I'd like another one, please. And when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. But under stress, I don't think that's the time that we make our best decisions. So what I would say is the only thing that's ever been true for me about this human experience is that we're here to have experiences. That's the only thing I can point to as a constant steady state for all humans I know, that we have these experiences. So from that place, like, does it sound that bad to have a different experience? Can you guarantee you're not supposed to have a different experience? And what were the things about the job you liked that you do want to do more of? And what were the things you hated? Because we know you had those too. So if you reimagined it from the things you liked, not just the things you wanted to avoid, like maybe it wasn't the company size that was the issue, maybe it was the role. Maybe it wasn't your manager who probably certifiably was an absolute underqualified idiot. I mean, I'll say that. I'm not saying which manager. I'm just saying it's possible that one of the managers you had was not the best suited for the role, was not giving you a fair shake, was not listening to your ideas, was not valuing your opinion. Like maybe you're in the wrong role. And so what would it look like if you were in the right role? And if you can't figure that out, maybe you can just make your list of what you don't want longer, because that can make what you do want very clear.
Dr. V, obviously you've gone beyond the titles, beyond the roles, and you've created so many different paths that you can take. Can you talk about why you actually started your brand, what gave you the inspiration to break free from the title and the role and start building, your being an author and having this and being a what was that catalyst for that? And then how did that help you, if at all, through some of these transitions you've made?
I started telling the truth when I was 48, so not that long ago. And I did that because I met this guy on Plenty of Fish. He was a former police officer, former military. And I was like, hey, I got to tell you something. It's like week 2. I used to be a stripper. And he is like, oh, okay. Just curious, how long ago? And I was like, oh, like 20 years. And he's like, oh, okay. I was like, there's more. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm a felon. He's like, okay. How long ago? I'm just curious. I was like, oh, about 20 years ago. He's like, okay. Um, and then the next question he asked me was, what do you want for dinner? That was the first time I'd had that reaction to sharing that information. And I hadn't shared that information that long. And I shared that with all of y'all because your ability to tell the truth is directly tethered to the network of support you will have when you tell the truth. And I'm going to say something that's not going to be helpful. So if your current network doesn't support your truth, find a different network. Not helpful. What does that mean? And how do you do that? And so because I had the privilege of having that support and had successfully told my truth with acceptance, I just loved the feeling. And I kept going and going and going because all I wanted to do was even up the scales. I'm not a motivated by dream person. I'm motivated by nightmares. So I had stripper, I had felon, I had food stamps, I had multiple failed marriages, I had baby daddies. And I always say, but I married them. Yeah, but I had baby daddies. And I just wanted something on this side. So that's what started the school. And then I was like, wow, if they were calling me doctor, they couldn't call me felon at the same time. I want them to call me doctor. So that was the building of it. And writing the books was just, oh gosh, you know that guy or that manager or that colleague, and you're like, oh, I wish I would have just said, I wish I would have told him. That's what Fix Your Face and Watch Your Tone is about. That's what Unapologetically Disruptive is about. It's the clapback. It's the what I should have said, what I could have said. Now I'm going to say it. So the books are streams of consciousness. And by the way, this might help you not do what I did. So to answer your question, the brand was built by the nightmare of staying silent. And to be very specific and transparent with your viewership, yes, even with 4 degrees, even with being the person that established the science that told companies not to give out any more gym memberships and instead give out house cleaning stipends and meal kits and grocery delivery service because it truly will increase productivity, profitability, and retention. Yes, I could not find a job. Yes,
Wow.
I've had to send out 500 resumes and get 0 back. Yes, I've been undervalued in the workplace. Yes, I've been marginalized in the workplace. Yes, I've been ignored in the workplace. Yes, I've been patronized in the workplace. Yes, I've been fired in the workplace.
Wow.
And you just get back up
Yeah.
because what's the alternative? Is there an alternative?
You said that it was your network. At the end of the day, that's how you got this new role was through your network. And I think most of us don't proactively build our networks. I think we
Mm.
go to our job, we do our job, we feel like we do a good job, and we think that the work that we do is what's going to set me apart. The work that I do is what's going to set me up for success. And the reality is, like you just indicated, you could be great at all the things that you do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to who do I know that can
Yeah.
put me in the right position that I belong in, that's next for me, where I can grow, where I can do something different, where I can bring value beyond what I've done in the past.
The other thing I'll say is a fallacy is you can be, and some people, I don't know that I would describe myself as this, but some people, and what I got a lot of reaction of when I made my last transition is you were one of the most well-known people in the company. How could this happen to you? When you are unapologetic and you are disruptive as part of your DNA, you may be well known, but that may not always be well received. And I always tell people early in your career, only do what you can afford. You don't have to speak up about every injustice when you don't have the social capital to do it, when you don't have the privilege of a solid state financial platform to do it from. But when you have that power and you have that privilege, do it. And corporations don't have feelings. I heard that once from an attorney that I know and was working with. And so if corporations don't have feelings, you as an employee can't ever feel truly safe and secure. And you only bring the parts of work that bring your whole self to work, that's a privilege. That means that you can afford the fallout from what your whole self looks like. And any company that tells you bring your whole self to work, just test that out. Ask them how many marginalized people, how many Black, Indigenous people of color they have hired in the past year and why there aren't more on your team. See if they really want your whole self. And of course, all of this is theoretical, but I'm sharing it because when you're looking for where you want to work, you want to look for a place that doesn't violate your boundaries. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to value all your thoughts, ideals, and opinions. And so people ask, do you want to work at a large company or a small company? Do you want to work? You should only target these companies where you want to work. As somebody that's been poor, that's a luxury. As somebody that did get a position because of Ash being in my network and connecting me to a great opportunity at Lyft Enablement, you are welcome to go to my LinkedIn and every day go just through my connections and hit add 5 every day. I have a great network. I would imagine most of them would accept that. And then you have to ask, hey, just curious, are you hiring for anything? When you start to feel that first tinge of unhappiness in your role, that's the time to start looking. That gives you a year to 18 months before they probably cycle you out or you cycle yourself out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is your network and you're welcome to mine.
Yeah. Thank you. You make a really good point about getting started, right? So often people sit and are miserable in their job,
Mhm.
but they're like, I feel like people don't realize that they have options because it's a hard job market. Again, it's not easy to find a position, especially when you don't have a position, and then it's the stress and all the things like you had mentioned earlier where it's hard to make decisions when you're stressed and there's a lot going on. But when you're actively in a position, you're actively unhappy, how do you know when to start and how do you get started? I mean, you just mentioned like, using your network, start asking around. What other feedback do you have for people that are in a role today? They want to leave, but they don't know how to get started.
I would say, when I worked at Groupon, I knew that it took me 500 calls to close a deal. It's a terrible number. I said I wasn't a good salesperson. I said I was a great share person. And that number did eventually go down. But when I started, it was 500 dials to close a deal. If it's 500 resumes to get an interview, you need to start sending resumes. And I know there are experts out there that know better than me about putting together and targeting and not spraying and praying. I'm throwing it everywhere, and I think when you're unhappy in your role, the way that you know it's time to start looking again, especially if you've lost respect for your manager or management chain, if the company policies have begun to violate your personal policies and boundaries, when it's misaligned. Now, all of this is coming from a place of privilege, right? Like if you need to work at a fast food company that has recently not served a Black police officer, you can Google it. And that's where you work. That's where you work. But that's when you start applying. When you see those things that do not no longer match with your set of personal values. And when you don't have a job, you just want to find a job. I would encourage everyone who doesn't have a job to literally apply to the fast food place as long as it won't mess up your unemployment. Just get back in the habit of working because there is a psychological shift of being able to find a job when you have one is a lot easier. All the recruiters flood your inbox when you have the job. And so when we talk about getting started, like just go work anywhere. If
Yeah.
you can, just go work anywhere. Just allow yourself to keep that momentum. But
Yeah.
ask your network and it's literally typing out, "Hey, I'm entering the job market. I'm looking for any roles that might meet my skills. I'm really good at organization, project management, leadership enablement. Would you keep me in mind?"
It's about reaching out and standing out. You got to get on LinkedIn. That's the other thing. I mean,
Oh,
again,
yeah, it's the yeah.
the people that I just no brand, zero brand, no connections. That's hard. That's going to be hard if you get put
Yeah.
out and you don't have anything built on your own.
It's really hard. Then I would also say, like, nothing lasts forever, neither good nor bad. And the thing I had to remind myself of, and my daughter taught me this, but it's so hard to remember, is like when you're in the middle, you're in the middle, and it's supposed to feel yucky. It's literally the middle. Of course, you can't see the end or the beginning. It's the middle,
Yeah.
but nothing lasts forever. You won't be unemployed forever. It may
Yeah.
feel like forever, but chronologically, it won't be forever.
Yeah.
And as you establish your brand, you have to be careful. I have a very pointed brand. There's companies that are not going to want to hire me, right? Like Turning Point wouldn't have hired me. So you have to make sure that your brand is something that you're prepared to stand behind. And I am.
Yes, absolutely. When I started this podcast, I had some people ask, well, how does this, I don't understand. Like, are you open to work? Like, how does this tie to your brand? And honestly, I'm just like, sometimes things aren't about me. Like, this is not just about me. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people out there who are looking for positions who don't have a platform. You know what I really care about? And we said it at the very beginning. I want people to tell their stories. You know how inspired I am every time I get the opportunity to talk to somebody here? It's like, this fills my cup. This fills my soul. Does it always have to be about what's in it for me? That's the thing that I'm like, my brand is about giving back too.
Yeah. What I love about that is that when it's time for your next role, there's gonna be an employer that hears this. That's why your messaging and your brand is so important, so that people know who they're getting. And the people that you help by allowing them space to tell their stories, those are the ones you reach out to and you say, "Hey, I'm looking for something. And maybe you can't give me a job, but could you use that doctor title to sign my recommendation?" The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And I don't think you should treat your life like you're a salesperson where you're always trying to find that with them. I think you should treat your life like you're that customer service person that's always trying to help the other person feel better about the situation that's brought to them when they leave.
Well, that was exactly it. Like, I had multiple people tell me, "Oh, you want to start building your brand? You should talk about sales." Like, I've been doing sales now for such a long time, like, women in sales leadership. And I'm like, I'm a part of those groups. Absolutely.
Yes, you
But
are.
that's not who I am. That's not
Right?
who I am. There's so much more depth to my story besides being a salesperson. Like, could I teach
Yeah.
people sales? 100%. But is that all I wanna do in my life? No. There's so many
Right.
more things.
But you're circling around the girls club when the time comes to support, right? Shout out to Lauren Bailey. Like there's just a lot of different facets to you, and I don't think that your brand should restrict you or force you to only look at that one facet. I I don't think life should restrict you to only one narrative or one story. And I don't think that your current set of skills and your confidence in your current set of skills should restrict you from taking chances and risks that you can afford, acknowledging it said from a place of privilege.
Yeah. So
The other thing I would say, don't be afraid to bargain some income with a whole lot of happiness. So if you could have a job where you could truly develop this role that would be phenomenal for yourself, could your budget actually afford you to take a $20,000 pay cut? And I said your budget, not your ego. Could your budget afford it? Could your ego take a sidestep to a title that doesn't sound as fancy or a company that's not as well known, but where you get to actually innovate and do the really cool things that would have taken you 5 to 6 years to do at another company, at least without getting in trouble. Because I've done some things faster than you're supposed to, and then you just get in trouble. So that being said, like, what can you compromise on so that you don't have to compromise yourself?
yeah, I love that. And on the last episode, we talked about ego. Ego gets in the way. Ego gets in the way of progress. I think it's important to have affirmations and to like tell yourself you're great, but
Yes.
also be careful not to let the ego get in the way of your growth.
Yeah, because you're not great because of your title, and you're not great because of the company you work at, and you're not great because of the salary that you make. You're great because of your you-ness, your humanity, your being. So I am phenomenal. And I love that I got the reminder that it wasn't because of my job, because that
Yeah.
became very clear.
Yeah. Exactly. So, okay, let's talk about how you define success because I'm sure it looks different than what it looked like in the past. So, how would you define success now compared to maybe earlier in your career? Because I do feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
what we want changes, life changes, success looks so
Yeah.
different, especially when you have kids and things like that.
Mhm.
So, how does success look different now for you compared to earlier in your career?
Number one, how people feel when they leave a meeting or interaction with me. I find you know, somebody said to me, "Oh, well, this person always speaks so highly of you." And I said, I don't care because I've seen how they treat other people. So how other people feel after interactions, that is high on my list of success. That more people feel good and enriched and valued leaving my circle of influence than when they came. That's number one. Number two, how much of my truth can I tell and still feel loved and valued? And that's an in-home dynamic for me, not likes or clicks, but how have I engineered my life and chosen people to be in my life that allow me to feel that I can tell my truth and still have safety and value and worth. And if you're lucky, even more so because you told your truth, all the parts of it. And the third thing is, how much do I enjoy the people around me when I don't have distraction? If the TV is off and the fridge is empty and the iPad doesn't work and the lights are off because you can't pay the bill or the power is literally out, how much do I enjoy the people that are around me? It is nightmarishly important to me that I leave the world better than how I have utilized it. So that's my basic guidance for success. It's that simple.
You describe it as simple, but I actually perceived that as being extremely reflective,
Hmm.
and I would encourage everyone who's listening to think about what success actually looks like. If you asked me that question, I'd probably spit out a bunch of stuff. But I haven't actually like that was so intentional and you knew exactly what success looks like and that becomes a North Star.
Mhm.
And in life, again, we can chase the titles, we can chase the jobs, we can chase the people, the things. But actually, what is your North Star? What are you doing it all for? And the way that you just outlined what success looks like is something that I think everyone should do. Really think about what do you want? What does good look like for you in your future? What does happiness look like for you in your future so that you can use it to guide every decision going forward?
And it's okay if it changes. And it's okay if it's selfish, right? My answer now is so much different than my answer 20 years ago, obviously, because of the choices and decisions I made, right? And it's different when you don't live paycheck to paycheck, although sometimes it still feels like that, especially with tariffs. Stay on topic. Um, but it's okay if it changes, and it's okay if you live 10, 22 different lives within this lifetime. It's not reinvention, it's the fluidity of the world. If things were supposed to stay the same, we would not have seasons.
That's
If
really
it's
good.
true if it's true for everything in our tangible universe, like, why would it not be true for us that it, right?
Yeah. I always think about it as a book too. It's like every book has a different chapter and you've got
Mhm.
to close one chapter to get to the next one.
Speaking of books, like, pick mine up, not because I want your money. Buy the digital copy, like, they're priced really low, like, but I think that they could help. And it only makes sense to go through all of these trials and tribulations and poor choices, self-inflicted trials and tribulations, if you can share it with someone else. So I encourage everyone, when you get to a position of privilege where you can safely share, do it.
So I actually want to talk about your book next. In your
Oh, okay.
new book, Unapologetically Disruptive Hard Lessons,
Yeah.
Simple Truths, you explore four key lessons from the corporate world. Can you give us an overview of what readers can expect from the book? And is there a simple truth that
Mm.
hits home for you right now?
So this is the book. I'm reading the book. Lesson 1, being a disruptor makes people uncomfortable, right? Lesson 2, you may never be enough for someone else. Lesson 3, you're responsible for your intent and your impact. And lesson 4, detractors are louder than supporters. When I was transitioning from my last role to this role, I would definitely say, like, being a disruptor makes people uncomfortable was one that was really hitting for me. Because everybody says they want disruption until you disrupt something, especially in the tech space. They're like, yes, the next big thing, until you actually try and put that in front of somebody. I think if you would have talked to me in my 20s, what I really wish I would have known is that you may never be enough for some people and for someone. Because boy, did I spend a lot of time trying to make that guy think I was enough for him when I was always just too much for him. Yeah. I think in my 30s and early 40s, even into mid 40s, being responsible for not just my intent, but my impact would have been a big one. Because I would just say it and I'd be like, well, it's the truth. So what's your problem? And that's not necessarily valid or kind. And I would say the lesson that I want other people to know right now, especially people that are struggling with confidence and belonging, is that your detractors are louder than your supporters in your mind. It doesn't matter what else is going on. Your detractors are louder than your supporters. And you can be on a stage in front of thousands of people and they can all be applauding. And then you hear that one person say that didn't make sense. And that's going to be louder. Comma space in your mind. You know, feelings are just thoughts that you spent so much time with that they actually attach themselves to you and nothing more. You can change them. You don't have to feel that way. It is a choice. And I say that as a person that was in prison. How you feel is your choice. You do have control over that.
Wow. That I I can't wait to pick up the book because all of those resonated with me. I could think of stories for all of those different topics. As I think about the detractors, social media is brutal. Like
It is.
people post, they ask questions and people just want to tear you down. But I will say that I've learned to really focus on the positives. Luckily, I haven't had a too much backlash on any of my posts, but actually the people that are bold, the people that have an opinion, that's where you start to shine and people see you, but you get the detractors, but you also get a lot of supporters too. And so that one is like that one resonates with me as I try and grow my brand is like it is a little scary because at some point you got to be prepared. If you're doing a good job, you got to be prepared for somebody to disagree with you. And then
Yeah.
how are you going to feel about that? And the feeling piece is also key because I can tell you people let their feelings totally derail. And you talked about it earlier too. You're a yoga instructor and even you could get derailed. We all do. It's normal. It's
Yes.
totally normal. But you need that moment of like, okay, how do I shift? Do you have any advice for people that are like getting kind of off track and how do they kind of come back to themselves and say, well, hold on, how do I shift my thoughts? How do I shift to a more positive mindset? Like, what advice would you give for people in that position?
Well, I talk in stories, so here's one. I was recently at an event and someone who I was getting to know, they were like, well, I mean, where's the unapologetic Dr. V? Like you're apologizing to people, you seem pretty soft-spoken, you're not saying what you think, you're kind of holding back. Like, where's that unapologetically disruptive person that's writing these books about fix your face and watch your tone? Now, obviously, it impacted me because I'm still thinking about it. But my response was truth, which is, yeah, I'm those things, but I also deserve space to be soft. Yeah, I'm those things, but I don't have to be those things all the time. And yeah, I'm those things, but those things aren't weighted on your scale. And so as you receive feedback, and I don't think I get enough negative feedback. I mean, somebody was like, what's your PhD in anyway? And I'm like, well, I have a doctor of business administration, so I don't have a PhD. So there's that. And if you really wanted to know, you'd probably be Googling my dissertation and shredding that. And I'd just be happy you read it. I think for me, like I'm just happy you have a comment. I'm happy that I've been able to get you to feel something, which there's a point in time when things feel so desperate, sometimes you don't even feel something, that I've impacted you enough that you are responding to something. And I also know that anytime you respond to something, that means it's attached to something in you and you're thinking about something and it's hit something and it's causing you to examine something. So it sounds trite to say I take it as flattery, but I do. The fact that this former stripper and felon has entered your household and entered your lexicon and entered your thought process and is said something that calls you to react. I mean, I don't know that there's any more flattering thing in the world. That being said, high school and college was rough, and that is not the same as being grown. So I say this to you from 50, and what Oprah said was right. Like, you stop caring in the same way. But what other people think of you is not your business. As long as you're doing the best you can in the moment you're in with the information you have and the energy you have. So what you think of me is literally none of my business. And what I thought of myself before I learned what you think of me is still true. Nothing changes. I don't like your shirt. I liked it this morning. Just because you didn't, that doesn't change. What you think of it is none of my business. Oh, you got a blemish on your face. You probably don't eat healthy. Yeah, probably I don't. But what you think of me is like none of my business. You were mean. I've heard you're real mean and that you don't really mean the things you say and you didn't speak out on this topic because you don't really, you just pretend play. Yeah, I heard what you said. I heard what you said. Doesn't have to go any further than that. You don't have to internalize it. Just because somebody says it doesn't make it true. Just because you say it doesn't make it true. You're only called to do the best that you can in the moment that you're in with the information you have. That is your scale. Your scale is not how many people like you or dislike you. Did I do the best that I could with the information I had in the moment I was in? And if not, let me find an avenue to apologize and make amends. If so, I did the best I could.
Thank you. There's so much insight in everything you just shared. And man, I just think a lot of the time as humans, as women, we do not give ourselves enough grace.
Mm-hmm.
And we do often feel like people's words have power over us, or we let people's words have power over us. And so everything you just went through, I think, are really good ways for people to reflect on, eh, how do I stop letting people have power over me and my feelings and my thoughts and what I pursue and what I don't pursue and what I say and what I don't say.
Mm.
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter who's in the room. If I feel it, I should be allowed to feel it. If I want to say it, I should be allowed to say it. That was,
As long as you can pay the price for it. And I want to make sure women specifically, there is a statistic that drove me to write the doctorate that I did, the dissertation that I did. And that was 80% of women leaders in tech said it was their spouse or spousal equivalent that allowed them to achieve and retain their leadership position. And I had 4 failed marriages at the time. And I was like, that's a lie. That's a lie. The reason I'm not further is my spouse or spousal equivalent. What is it they were doing that I am missing out on? I cannot stress enough, especially to women and especially to people in marginalized communities, how critical it is that you have a spouse, not that you love, not that you think is cute, not that makes you financially secure, but somebody that is truly a partner to you. Had I understood what partnership looked like, and I didn't get this until I was in this marriage, what's it been, 4 years or so? Anyway, you cannot have someone that is not supporting you. And if you do have someone that is not supporting you and you cannot exit it, I get it. But the things that allowed the 80% of those women to achieve are things you must immediately find a way to insert into your relationship. That social support, someone that will help with dinner or take on dinner, share that load. And if you can't find it, then you need to get a meal kit delivery service, somebody that will participate in the responsibility of keeping a house clean and having clean clothes to wear. And if you don't, you need to find a way to budget in some laundry services and house cleaning services. Somebody that will strategize with you about your job dynamics and workplace. Hardcore strategy. And if you don't have it, you need to make sure you have a mentor and a sponsor and a coach. You have to create that social support within your inner circle. And I don't care if you pay for it or you have a self-selected wonderful mate that gives it to you. And until you find that, by the way, it is better for your career and your mental health, I would suggest, to be lonely.
wow, that was powerful. And on several of these episodes, I've heard individuals talk about their significant other, and I've heard the story, they're telling stories. I'm like, sounds like you've got a great partner.
Yes.
And that makes all the difference.
It does. And the only time it's a drawback, because I got to be honest, boy, Mark Boykin, if you watch my video, if you go to drvboykin.com and you see me on that stage in front of thousands of people, and then there's a person standing up, clapping in the front row and taking pictures, that's Mark. So there's a downside to it. Like, there's not many pictures of me on a stage where his head is not also in the picture, because he's the first one to cheer me on. He's the first one to applaud. He's the first one to make sure I got that action shot that I wanted. He's the first one to make sure I have a cup of water when I come off the stage. And it is a beautiful thing. It took me 48 years to find it. It should not take y'all that long. But if it does, wait.
I love that. That's great. I mean, look, my husband, he cooks, he cleans, he does all the things. He's my ear. I can't get him to get a good photo though. We've really got to work on
Is he
that.
always like up here on the top? He puts that camera so high. I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish?
I'm like, can you learn my angles, babe?
Yeah, no, they can't. But there's other things. They can lift the heavy packages, right?
I take out the trash because I don't like doing that.
Yes, I don't either. I don't either. We actually have a very traditional breakdown of responsibilities in the house. Anyways, that's a topic for another day. But please just find a fully grown man unless you're ready to have a kid.
That's good. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time and I'm sad about it. But what I will say is this. There's a lot of people who are navigating really tough situations, whatever that may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here we talk a lot about navigating career transitions, but let's just be honest, there's so many other things that go into it. What advice would you share with someone who's just going through a tough time, who is uncertain of their future, who feels like they're hitting a wall right now? What advice would you share for those people?
It's not popular, but I would tell them go back to school, online school specifically. The best way to change the future is to provide education or a different certification or skill or something that you're taking forward. The difficult time is going to pass. It's really a question of what do you want it to look like on the other side? And instead of focusing only on, and it's really hard when you can't get out of bed. That's why I say online school, because when things are hard, sometimes it's just hard to get out of bed. Great, just take your laptop to your bed. Western Governors University has been very good to me. National University has been very good to me. Like, while you refuse to open the drapes or be seen in public or get out of bed or get on the dating site or send another resume, just go ahead and go to school. Go ahead and go to school. It increases your earnings. It makes you more marketable. In 4 years, 3 years, 2 years is going to pass. It's really a question of what you want that other side to look like.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing, Dr. B. And thank you for all of the insights that you provided today. I was inspired this entire last 50 minutes. And I honestly think I need to go back and listen to it again and maybe again and again and again and again because you had so many good insights. But also, I need to go buy the books. So I'm going to go buy your books. I'm going
Okay.
to read them. I'm going to internalize them. And then I'm just going to continue to appreciate all of the work that you're doing, sharing your story, sharing your insights, sharing the outcomes that you've taken away, because I am confident they're going to help a lot of other people going through transition in many different ways.
And my one ask to you and anyone else that reads the book is reach out and tell me what you think about it. I genuinely want to know what you think about it. I answer every single LinkedIn message. I just do. I want to know what you thought. So I encourage everyone to do that as well. And if for some reason you cannot afford the book, I will send you a digital copy. You are hearing this, it is recorded. Send me a LinkedIn. I will send you a digital copy of the book if you cannot afford to purchase one. I just want you to have the information.
Thank you, Dr. B, and thank you. What a great honor to have you today. I look forward to staying in touch and to sharing my feedback with you. But until next time, everyone, thank you again for listening to this really great episode. I hope you have so many fantastic takeaways and it helps you navigate your transition with power. If you're listening and you are open to work and you are looking for your stage to share your story, please do reach out to me. We are looking for guests and we're ready to have you on to tell your story. Thank you again, Dr. B.
Thank you.